Hello and welcome to More Tea Minister. My name is Ian. Today we are looking at one tea, despite there being a number of packages here, and we are looking at traditional Dong Ding Oolong Tea from EcoChar, part of their limited edition range. Now, traditional in this sense means basically that the tea has not been roasted. We tend to think of Dong Ding Oolong as a tea that is a mixture of, not a mixture, but a product of roasting and of higher oxidation, and playing within those parameters, and also changing the parameter of what cultivar is used. In this instance, what we've got, in terms of, just for illustration's sake, this is the traditional Dong Ding Oolong from winter 2025. This is the winter 2025 Dong Ding Oolong from EcoChar, and this wee fella here is a sample package of the summer 2025. And in each instance, it's obviously the same vendor, it's the same kind of tea, the same cultivar or mix of cultivars to be precise, and the same producer at the same terroir. So what we've got is the traditional and 2 seasons worth of the Dong Ding. The difference is the traditional has not been roasted. However, I believe that all of these have undergone, other than that, pretty much the same parameters. In fact, I'm just looking at my notes on the screen. The traditional has also undergone what's called grooming to remove excess stem material and overly mature leaf material. So that should be evident, as it was for these, when we come to look at the tea inside. So, speaking of which, well, let's take a look at the packaging for our traditional Dong Ding Oolong Tea, and then we will have a Western style or teapot style brew, and then a gong fu session to taste the tea, all as part of our review. See you in a moment. Here we are looking at the external packaging for EcoChar's limited edition traditional Dong Ding Oolong Tea. With it being part of the limited edition series, it's got a black label. The sort of miniature tasting profile there: pastry parsnip creamy, it's whole leaf oolong tea, 75 grams, turning it just the once. We've got the tasting notes, just to go over those in a little more detail: mildly sweet / savoury pastry aroma, butternut squash, parsnip, Swiss chard note, rich, creamy, lasting finish. The harvest hand-picked, singular small batch from Fenghuang Village, Taiwan, 720 meters. It's winter 2025. And the brewing guide: 8 grams of tea, 300 mils of water, 95 degrees centigrade for 3 minutes steep, and then re-steep and adjusting accordingly. Let's take this away and look at the internal packaging. We have the now famous corrugated paper, and inside that we have the vacuum sealed package of tea, EcoChar's ecochar.com traditional Dong Ding Oolong Tea in the black label. Let's take a look at the tea inside. Here we are looking at the traditional Dong Ding Oolong Tea material from EcoChar. In comparison to the summer and winter, and therefore roasted variations, this is a lot more green, but obviously because this hasn't been roasted, it's simply an oolong with a higher degree of oxidation. The stem material here is very prominent, as none of it is loose, and there's very little small fragments. The tea beads are pretty consistent in size, on average somewhere between about 3 to 6 millimeters, and they are a dark green. There is some green edging to the material, and the stem material, which is very prominent, is a lighter brown, or it's green in its own right. I suppose the colour scheme is not really a surprise if this is simply an unroasted version of the tea material we've already looked at. The aroma of the tea is candy sweetness with a sort of juicy, fresh quality, and a certain fruity element as well. So let's move on to our tastings. Here we are with the first of our 2 tastings of our traditional Dong Ding Oolong Tea from Eco Char. The brewing parameters for the tea is 3.5 grams of tea, 150 mils of water at 95 degrees centigrade for 3.5 minutes. The same tea leaves were then subjected to the same parameters, 95 degrees centigrade, 150 mils of water for a further 3.5 minutes to make our second steep. So let's compare first of all the colour of our two steeps. The second steep is a less intense colour, but I would say it is the same colour. They're both greenish yellow, but the second steep has lost some of that intensity of colour. The aroma I'm getting distinct elements more familiar with the Qingshin cultivar, which is natural enough. It is just a higher oxidized Qingshin. There's cream, there's something perfumed, there's something very sweet, there's something, I think, floral, I think what the perfumed quality is. On to our second steeping. Second steeping is hotter, so I'm just trying to cool it down. There was a distinct sort of herbal freshness, both brewings. Yeah, there might be a sort of extra dose of freshness in the second steep, even though some of the other elements are a bit attenuated. Let's try this off the cup. Yeah, something perfumed and sweet, more grassy than fruity or floral, but it's creamy. No, it's fruity. I would go with fruity. Maybe a little of both. The cream is strong, the sweetness is there, but it's a bit thin and the flavour's dropping off. I must say that isn't really a surprise because the leaves were very reluctant to re-steep. In fact, I thought even the second steep wasn't going to be enough, but within the last 30 seconds or so, the remaining leaves, which had unfurled, but they'd unravelled, if that makes sense, but they hadn't hydrated, so they were sort of uptight and then they could rehydrate. That had only just happened. So we may get more flavour or more of some flavours, but it may still not be everything this tea can give. But there is a lot of cream. Definite medium body. Cream. There is something there that isn't just pure sweetness. There is some sort of... One moment, let's try again. There's an element of freshness, but it's still a little thin. Right, what we might do is do a third steeping and see if that actually pulls out any flavours. It's worth a try. I mean, this tea is new to me, so I'm keen to give it do justice to it, and then we move on to our gong fu. So let's brew a third steeping. Same parameters. Back in a moment. So here we are with our 3 steepings of the traditional Dong Ding. First, second, and third, the same parameters. The same 3.5 grams of tea was brewed for 3.5 minutes, 95 degrees centigrade, 150 mils of water. Same amount of water, same temperature, same duration for the leaves a second time, and then a third time the same. If we take a look at the colour of the third versus the first, again, it's the same kind of colour, just more attenuated. And there isn't that much difference between the second and the third, just losing some of the sort of yellow component each time. So what's the aroma on the third steep? Have we managed to unlock something that wasn't there in the, as at that time, only just unfurled leaves? It's a mild aroma, but I would have said there is definitely something floral there. So let's see what we can manage. I would say the same touch of cream as well. Oh yes, a lot of cream. Flavour is dropping off, but there is something there. Just seeing if an inhale can sort of clarify what it is. It's a bit drying, so you wouldn't want to do that fourth time without a bit of care. Yeah, I would say florals. It's mild, but it is perfumed, and there's something there more than sweetness and just sort of vegetable and freshness. So there we go. The cream is very prominent, and there is some florals there as well. I suspect it might be possible to get to those florals more thoroughly with a gong fu session, which we are now about to do. I might also have to rearrange the lighting in here because there's a lot of light streaming in for the window for once. The sun is shining, which I think is making the screen very dark. So I will fix that and come back with a gong fu session. See you in a mo. Here we are in the final part of our video, a tasting through a gong fu session of our traditional Dong Ding Oolong. I've improved the lighting in one respect. I've closed the curtain so I can at least see the screen, and hopefully things aren't faded out. On the other hand, once again, not for the first time I look like I'm in a bunker, which isn't a good look. But we shall endure. We've got 3 grams of tea, the water's at 95 degrees centigrade, and everything is as standard, 50 mils per steeping. We've got our stopwatch, our pad, our wastewater jug, so I think we're ready to proceed. Now these tea buds were pretty unresponsive to a Western, so 45 may only just start to get them on the move. But I've been caught out like that before, and tea buds that for whatever reason just didn't respond to Western style, all of a sudden they're incredibly cooperative when it comes to gong fu. And I'm sure, I don't remember, but I'm sure the opposite must be true as well. So, okay. We're coming up to 30 seconds. We'll check in at 35, just to see if anything is happening. Not yet. If anything, just a hint of sweetness, but that's really it. We'll just do 45. Let's play it safe. Okay, 45. A very intense fruity sweetness. Wow, that didn't really come through on the cup, but that's a very intense kind of fruitiness. And there's cream on the aroma. The colour is the silvery colour of a white tea. I know it's the same phrase, but if you know what a white tea looks like, you know what this looks like. Perfumed sweetness. Interesting. The same on the cup, but very much more intense. And it's there on the cup, yeah. Some perfume, some sweetness, light to medium body. Tea beads are still pretty firmly. You see them. They are not even quite, they're not even quite at their velvet covered pebble stage, but they're almost there. They just look fatter, which is a bit rich coming from me, but you get the idea. And the stalk material, because it's so prominent, is expanding, rehydrating. So we're going to take that to 50. Let's play this safe. I'd really like to see if we can get to the florals more quickly. Well, more convincingly, rather than just being on the edges. I'd like to be able to say, right, there's the florals. It's a good start that we're getting a sort of perfume note already. So as I say, we're going to take this straight to 50. Maybe something is telling me give it a couple of seconds extra. 53. Don't know why, but we are. Same again, a very pronounced sort of complex sweetness, almost as if it's a lot more oxidized than it is. I've seen the hydrated leaves, it really isn't that highly oxidized at all. Our second steep is into yellow green, a very intense yellow green, but yellow green nonetheless. There you go. Yep, the cream and definitely floral. Cream and florals. It'd be nice if we were. Yeah. That's really just to let it cool down. These leaves are an extraordinary smell. They don't have that coconut smell at all. It really is as if someone's poured syrup over them. I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but it really isn't. Medium body, creamy. Yeah, there's your florals. The leaves are, I don't know why it's happened, but they're responding a heck of a lot better to Gong Fu than they did to Western. Let me take you one out. This is only a second steep, mind, but that leaf is already largely rehydrated, if not completely, it's unfurled, if not completely rehydrated, put it that way. And that stalk material, there's another one. That stalk material is definitely on the mend. So this is going to take a bit more water, and I don't want to lose what we've just got. So we may go for the absolute bare minimum amount of water we need to cover these, so we don't have to add much in the way of timing. Right, there we go. I would say that's only 60. That's good. And I think the next steep would have to be another one to compensate with a lot more water. I was going to say this is this is my daughter's pen, and I'm taking notes in bright pink ink. This is not this is not the manliest pen I could have picked to use. I'll just have to make my voice more gruff to overcompensate. Anyway, talking about tea. Sorry. Some days you may as well laugh, because if you didn't, you would go mad. And today is one of those days. We'll go with 65, I think. We don't want to overcompensate. 65. I was going to try the aroma of the leaves, not just the lid. We'll go with the lid to start with. Now, it's receded a little, that sort of really syrupy sweet. It's a little milder, but it's there on the leaves again. It's not the caramelized vegetable smell that we got from was it the winter? It was the winter 2025. It's just like they've taken the leaves and doused them in caramel, in syrup. Yeah, they've had a bit more room. Okay, that's very good. And they are, yeah, they're tender. They're not even leathery. They've just gone straight to tender. Yeah, a little thin, but you're always trying to second guess. That's intensified in color. That is gold. That's great. Just holding it up to the light there. It's gold. It's greenish gold, but it's certainly gold. The cream is very strong. It's not drying, so that's good in that respect. If it is, it's only slightly. Yeah, I think there's florals again. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not super intense, but they're definitely there, as is the cream. Although we're at the point, I think you really would be, yeah, you wouldn't want to brew that for any longer. That would be pushing it too far. You would need to, you can't really up the temperature. Not sure what you would do to tweak it, but we've got about as far as we could go. Maybe now it's hydrated, we start bringing it back. So maybe one last one. We'll do the same again. Assuming we can, about there. Yeah, that's about the same. And we will do that for about 53. So we're bringing the timings back now. So let's see if, now that everything has re-steeped, let's see if we can, to roll of the dice, let's see if this allows us to get just a final chance to see if there's any more florals there by dint of making sure we're not oversteeping. So we'll go with 53, 55, did I say? Let's go with 53. So that's 7 seconds less steeping. Now, granted, this is the next steeping, so you're losing some flavour molecules. That has picked up a little. Sweet rather than anything too specific, but it has picked up. Colour-wise, ooh, that's the same. Colour is the same. That's a good start. More florals. The cream's a little thinner, but it's more florals. The problem with this artificial light and no daylight is I have the colour of something that's my complexion. I look like something that's been dug up. Yeah, there we go. That's not a good look. Oh yes, that's good. And it's picked up some freshness as well. Granted, the flavour is dropping off a little, but we've got more freshness, a bit more florals, a bit more perfume. Just eking out a wee bit more, and it's less drying, and that tannic, slightly overbrewed edge has gone completely. So that was a good shout. Right, we'll call that quits. Does this work better with Western or Gaiwan? Definitely the Gaiwan. The Western took 3 steeps to get to any florals. This, we were getting into cream and a perfumey note and some sweetness right from the off. So you were getting a pretty convincing kind of Ching Shin flavor profile, cream and florals, pretty swiftly. So I think the Gong Fu wins in that respect. Doesn't mean to say my parameters are the best, but using those parameters, Gong Fu's top dog. Treating this tea as a Ching Shin rather than a Dong Ding, because it's had the roasting edge, the roasting aspect obviously omitted, I would say this is a very good example because of that amount of cream in the florals, especially with the gong fu. So I would recommend this if you were just wanting to try a Ching Shin and asking yourself, well, what does terroir do if I got a Ching Shin oxidized but not roasted from, I don't know, Dong Ding Lugu or versus Shanlin Shi or Ali Shan or Li Shan, wherever it happens to be. I got this from EcoChar. I don't actually know how many companies are selling unroasted Dong Ding or unroasted Ching Shin from this area, the heartland of Dong Ding. But as always, as a matter of courtesy, I would recommend going through EcoChar. And I'm going to take one last. Yeah, we've kind of exhausted that syrupy sweetness. The leaves are very, very plump now. They're not just soft, they're very plump. So we've got them just right without cooking them. Let's take a look at a... Right, there you go. I think that allows you to see very well. Not sure you can see the degree of oxidation around the edges of the leaf, but you can see how flat it is now. So that's hydrated very nicely. Okay, a very interesting tea and a clear winner for the gong fu. Not very complicated, just only one adjustment per volume of water, that's not bad, and just incremental rises. Fantastic, another good showing. So it all remains for me to say happy steeping and God bless.